Hey guys, Brooke Potter here. Just getting off a very busy week. I don't know how many of you have joining me, but there have been a couple of changes to the channel. I've been trying to promote the channel by exploiting some of the YouTube algorithms. So you've been seeing a lot more posts from me in the community tab, as well as the YouTube shorts. But that still doesn't mean I don't want to do some long form discussions. This was a very busy week for me. I had the 10K Run podcast that is now on Tuesdays, 5 p.m. GMT. If you're not subscribed, please do. And we are available on all major podcasting platforms. In addition, we did a interview, kind of like a long form discussion with Masculine Geek, the guys over there. Vincent James had both Amos and myself on for the show. It's an early test of a pre-recorded show that should be coming out next week, Wednesday. So go and check out their channel out there and, let us know what you think. Also this week, I had a very late show on basically Thursday morning, 2 a.m. in the morning in the UK GMT with my brother and friend, Paulie B, who is a fellow person who worked at Royal Family International. Those who know, I was the World Mission Director there for a couple of years, working with Pete Cabrera Jr. And we had a very candid conversation about the subject of hell and basically how it can be interpreted through scripture, as well as understanding the Jewish mindset of scripture versus the Greco-Roman, Plato, Aristotle view of scripture. Very interesting chat. Again, I've linked that. I put a link to that in my streams playlist. It's available on this channel. You can go and see it there, or go over to Paulie B's channel, Lifestyle Sonship, I think, or Sonship Lifestyle channel. I'll find the link and I'll put it below. But with that said, there are a couple cultural things that have been taking place, and I just kind of wanted to throw my commentary on it. The whole Gina Carano situation where she's been fired from Disney. This is something we've discussed on the 10K Run podcast, but I kind of wanted to chime in on it just a little bit more because there have been some recent developments. Now, for those of you who don't know, Gina Carano was one of the actresses in The Mandalorian. She played Cara Dune, a very popular character. She's also been in Deadpool and a couple other movies, and she was originally a mixed martial arts fighter for the UFC. She was the champion for a while. Eventually, she lost her title and she came across to Hollywood, and she, had a relatively successful career. Now, in The Mandalorian, she became one of the most beloved characters, and it was pretty obvious that she was not going to be towing kind of the woke walker, woke progressive SJW mindset. And in recent weeks, she has actually been fired from Disney in light of a tweet that she put out that people are claiming was anti-Semitic, which it clearly wasn't, because the tweet was centered around the idea that, back in, the Yahtzee times, back in WW2, the people in Germany, it didn't happen overnight. There was a slow progression of people kind of turning on their neighbors. And Gina Carano kind of lay a comparison between what's the difference between people selling out their neighbors in that time period versus in the present day U.S. Political climate, where people are selling out their neighbors for political beliefs, whether they're Trump supporters or whatever the case might be. In fact, quite worryingly, a survey came out for both Republicans and Democrats in the United States about what they were most concerned about. For the Republicans, it's all the usual stuff: illegal immigration, high taxes, government overpower, concerns about the Second Amendment and such. But surprisingly, for the Democrats, the number one issue is Trump supporters. And you can see how this media narrative that they're pushing, that, everybody who supported Trump is a Yahtzee for the algorithm's sake and so forth. So there is definitely a huge political divide. And Gina Carano kind of found herself in the midst of this. And not to mention, the political climate at Lucasfilms has not been very happy with the responses. Now, I don't have any inside sources at Lucasfilms. I tend to watch people like Nerdrotic, Doomcock, and The Quartering, as well as Clownfish TV and these other kind of pop culture channels to kind of get a sense of what's been going on behind the scenes. And the divide at Lucasfilms is something that I think has been brewing for quite a while. Pedro Pascal, who is the star, he is the main character of The Mandalorian. He has also put out some rather controversial tweets, kind of comparing cages with children, and America, and just the same types of political statements. And he seems to have gotten a pass, while Gina Carano, she put out these things that were not anti-Semitic or anything like that. They were simply just drawing the comparison about political witch hunts and how we should be concerned about that. And she was fired. Nobody told her. In her recent interview with Ben Shapiro, which is fantastic. You should definitely watch it. You learn about how she's been kind of put through the runner. She's been put through the paces. And she's been, her public relations officers and these other people are trying to, get her to do the apology tours and do all these other types of things. There was an earlier controversy about pronouns. The leftists are very thing about pronouns, and she, as they were kind of harassing her to do this, and she put out her pronouns as beep, bop, boop, or something like that. And of course, the woke walkers were offended, saying this is offensive to trans people and offensive to this and that, and people don't get it and whatever. And Gina Carano really goes into this discussion about how her publicist wanted to sit her down in some Zoom call with 40 different trans people, basically to berate her, 40 people to one. And basically to bend the knee and do the apology tours and stuff like that. And she said she wasn't going to do that. She put it out very plainly that she was not intentionally trying to offend anybody of the trans community. She understands how that can be seen as offensive, but she wasn't really doing that. She was mocking kind of the woke Twitter mob and the blue check marks and stuff like that. And she was being snarky, yes, but she wasn't trying to be offensive. And in private, many people in the trans community came back and said, this isn't really offensive. But the problem with Lucasfilms goes beyond, her antics. It would appear that there's been a brewing controversy long before she kind of got on board. Even with Jon Favreau, who's doing The Mandalorian, there's definitely been competition between Kathleen Kennedy and Favreau, who have very different visions about where Star Wars should be going. And they were kind of pitted against each other. The Mandalorian was put against the Lego Star Wars movie, which featured all of the new characters from the sequel trilogy. So Rey, Poe, and Finn, and all of these in Lego form. And I think there was kind of a crossover with Luke Skywalker and others. And Luke Skywalker apparently praises, Rey is the bestest ever. I wouldn't know. I haven't watched it. I'm not going to watch it. I basically stopped watching Star Wars after The Last Jedi and what they did to the character of Luke. Luke, who was the most optimistic character that saw the sliver of good in his dad, Darth Vader, and held out hope till the very end, suddenly turns into this crotchety, hopeless, grumpy old man with no hope that would actually try to kill his nephew. I said, no, this is bullshit. I'm not watching this anymore. So I haven't followed anything with that until The Mandalorian, which is an excellent, excellent series. It is actually giving the fans what they want. And anybody who's seen Amos and myself talk about this, the ending of season 2, you can feel the disturbance in the force as Star Wars fans all across the world, had a united gasp and just a fantastic time seeing one of their beloved characters return in his full glory. And I don't want to give too much away with that. But that caused a real stir at Lucasfilms. Simply because, as much as the sequel trilogy made money, it did not make as much money simply because, nobody really cared about these new characters. Everybody wanted to see, Han Solo and Chewie and Luke and Leia all back in the Millennium Falcon, back together again, kind of handing off the torch to the next generation, but that never happened. And there was just, disdain for what had been done to these beloved characters. And of course, Kathleen Kennedy and the crew over at Lucasfilms blamed the toxic fandom. The reason that the trilogy didn't do well is because, the Star Wars fans hate women, and, they're all misogynists, and, all of the ists that come out of this nonsense. Never mind, there was tremendous love for Princess Leia, warrior princess, on all this kind of stuff. There was tremendous love in the Clone Wars for Ahsoka Tano. I think that's her name. I didn't watch much of the Clone Wars. But yeah, as for Ahsoka, beloved character, she started off very, very kind of know-it-all, and you could see the progression as she went on, and she became a fan favorite. They brought her back in The Mandalorian. So this narrative of, the fans just hate women was falling apart, and made worse by Gina Carano. Gina Carano played the Cara Dune character fantastically. She was beloved. Her toys were outselling all of the sequel trilogy guys. It causes a narrative. Gina Carano was a slap in the face of Kathleen Kennedy and the idea that the reason her product was not being as successful was because the fans hate women, and then you have a female character that's beloved by the fans. You don't have much of a leg to stand on. So that is kind of the dilemma that's going on with this whole thing. And needless to say, Carano is, she's landed on her feet. She's a fighter. She did a fantastic interview. She's now working with the Daily Wire, which is Ben Shapiro's company. They're starting to do more movies. I did watch, I think it's Run, Hide, Fight, which is the first movie that's come out from the Daily Wire. It was actually pretty good. It was a pretty good story about, a girl in a school shooting situation. It was done very well. I thought, it's not going to be a Hollywood budget, but it was a very good situational drama, a lot of action. I was pretty impressed. So I'm looking forward to what Gina Carano is going to do with the Daily Wire. I hope and wish her all the success. And now, seeing as they got rid of Gina Carano, I hear, this is a rumor, of course, that they're now trying to go after Rosario Dawson, who played Ahsoka Tano in The Mandalorian. So this is the next woman character that is beloved of the fandom, but also pose a problem to the idea that the reason that the sequel trilogy failed is because the fandom is misogynist. So there's some rumblings on that. And Rosario Dawson is not a conservative anything in any kind of capacity. I believe she's going out with a very progressive senator or congressman or something like that who's buying into all of the racial justice. There is the media spin apparatus that's going on. So I just wanted to kind of share a little light on that. That's the little bit of I know. I don't have any inside sources. I follow all these other guys, but it shows how these narratives that Disney is pushing about, the fandom hating women and all this other types of nonsense is falling apart. Especially since I think the Oscars came out and Kathleen Kennedy did an entire speech in this virtual Oscar about how they need to empower women. And then one of the first acts she does right after that is fire Gina Carano. So the mask is slip. I hope people are kind of aware of it. Now, generally, I don't care about actors and actresses' political positions. If they play the role well, I'll give them the accolades and the respect that they deserve. But this is what's going on, and I just wanted to comment on that. It is kind of a cultural thing that's taking place right now. So guys, be sure to look out for my other short videos as I'm trying to promote this channel, get the message out there. Join me and Amos for the 10K Run podcast. Also available on all major podcasting platforms. Just add us to the list. Even if you don't listen, guys, we could do the downloads. You could also leave us a review. That would be very helpful. And also join me on Sundays for Religion Zero, where I'm back with the panel this Sunday. It's hosted on my channel, and we'll be talking about the people who scream, "You're wrong," and the Bible clearly says. So if you're interested in that, be sure to join us as well. So be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. Take care.